Name and surname.
Richard Ramirez was born as Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez.
Number of victims.
20 killed, 8 attempted, 8 raped.
Sentence.
Sentenced to 19 death sentences.
Status.
Died by liver failure in a hospital, at the age of 53. Ramirez was born Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez in El Paso, Texas, on February 29, 1960. His father, Julian Tapia Ramirez, was born in Camargo, Mexico. He met Richard's mother, Colorado-born Mercedes Munoz, there when they were both 14 years old. When her family went to Juarez, Julian followed and married her in 1948, when they were 19. As he wasn't an American citizen, he lived in Juarez while Mercedes resided in El Paso and had their children there. They had a total of 5, Ruben, Joseph, Robert, Ruth, and, finally, Richard Ramirez. In 1952, Julian was deported by border security and the entire family moved to the U.S., where Julian attained legal citizenship and found work at the Santa Fe Railroad. Mercedes's pregnancy with Ramirez was very difficult because the chemical fumes she inhaled at her job at a boot factory caused her body to try and reject the fetus. At the age of 2, he almost died when a dresser fell on him, and he suffered a concussion. Growing up, he was a quiet loner. When he was in 5th grade, it was discovered that he had epilepsy, though doctors said he would grow out of it. It resulted in him being removed from his position as a quarterback on the school's football team. When he was in 7th grade, his grades began slipping and he started sniffing glue. At the age of 10, he began spending nights at cemeteries and also began smoking marijuana. When he was 12 years old, his cousin Miguel returned from his second tour in Vietnam and they began spending time together. He would show Ramirez photos of Vietnamese women he had raped, tortured, and killed, and also taught him how to keep hidden and kill with stealth. When Ramirez was 13, he witnessed Miguel shoot and kill his wife and was affected by it for the rest of his life. Shortly before that, he had begun burglarizing people's homes, committing petty theft, skipping school, and becoming addicted to cannabis. During burglaries, he enjoyed walking around in the homes and going through the residents' personal belongings. During a trip to Los Angeles to see his brother Ruben, a petty criminal, Ramirez was taught more about burglaries from him. After returning to El Paso, he enrolled in the Jefferson High School but dropped out after less than a year. The only subject in which he did well was physical education. He would hunt animals with his family when they were available. If they were not, he would go alone. He particularly enjoyed sneaking up on them and then stabbing and gutting them. He liked watching horror movies and began to attend Jehovah's Witness meetings, where he became interested in Satan. At the age of 15, while he was still in high school, he briefly held down a job at a Holiday Inn, but was fired after a few months for entering a woman's room and attempting to rape her, but was stopped by her husband. Because the couple was from out of state and wanted to move on as soon as possible, they wouldn't testify against him and the charges were dropped. At the age of 16, he was already a skilled burglar. Shortly after turning 18, he moved to Los Angeles permanently. During his first weeks in LA, Ramirez mostly lived as a transient. He made a substantial amount of money by selling marijuana that he had bought cheaply in El Paso and brought with him and spent the money on food and stays in hotels. He made a habit of stealing cars, spending a few days in them, stealing anything valuable inside, and then ditching them. He became addicted to cocaine, which was a very popular drug at the time, and could afford the habit by selling items he stole during burglaries. One night in the summer of 1978, he bound a lesbian woman with whom he smoked PCP and raped her repeatedly. His interest in Satanism evolved and he became involved with the Church of Satan. He spent some months in prison for auto theft but was released. In 1983, his sister Ruth went to LA and tried to convince Ramirez to come back to El Paso, but he turned her down. On June 28, 1984, after snorting cocaine, Ramirez burglarized the home of 79-year-old Jenny Wilkow, raped her, and stabbed her to death. On March 17 of the next year, he bought a .22 revolver from a dealer and would later use it in several of his killings. Over the course of a little more than a year, Ramirez proceeded to kill 12 additional people, as well as rape and/or attempt to kill multiple others in several different Californian cities. The media eventually nicknamed him the Night Stalker. On August 24, 1985, Ramirez committed his last known murder, killing a man named William Carnes and raping his fiancée, leaving her alive. She got a good look of both him and the orange Toyota he was driving, including its license plates. On the morning of August 28, the car was found outside a shopping center in Los Angeles County. Though Ramirez was always careful not to leave behind fingerprints, he forgot to wipe off one on the rearview mirror. When the print was matched to those of his prints that were on file, the Night Stalker Task Force released his name and picture to the media. On August 31, 1985, Ramirez tried to steal a Mustang, not noticing that the owner was under the car. When he heard the car start, the man got up and forcibly pulled Ramirez out of the car. Ramirez then ran across the street and tried to steal another car, but the driver called for help. A neighbor heard the noise and called the police. When Ramirez was recognized from the published mugshot, a large number of residents banded together, apprehended him, and managed to hold him down until police arrived and arrested him. His trial for 14 counts of murder and 31 other felony counts didn't take long and included hundreds of pieces of evidence against him. As it progressed, Ramirez garnered several female fans who became utterly devoted to him. On October 3, 1989, the jury found him guilty and he was sentenced to death. On October 3, 1996, 7 years to the day after he was found guilty, he married one of his female fans, a freelance magazine editor named Doreen Leoy. After a long relationship in which they wrote letters to each other, she once stated that she would commit suicide if he were executed. They remained married until the year he died, when they divorced. In 2009, Ramirez's DNA was linked to the 1984 murder of 9-year-old Mei Lung, who was beaten, raped, and stabbed, though he was never charged with the killing since he was already awaiting execution. On June 7, 2013, after spending more than half his life on death row, Ramirez died of liver failure in a hospital, at the age of 53. Ramirez typically struck at night and entered his victims' homes through home invasions. According to several witness reports, he would dress in black, presumably as camouflage. His victims varied in age and race and were often shot with a .22 revolver, but were also killed or attacked in a variety of ways, including stabbing, slashing with a machete, and bludgeoning with a hammer or a tire iron. Ramirez sometimes raped his female victims and left satanic pentagrams as a signature. His generally preferred style of killing was to burglarize the home, kill the husbands, and then rape the wives.